So I'm here with my Nana. Can you say your name and your age?
My name is Ardean Prosen, and I'm going to be 85 in April 14th.
Okay, and then we are going to be doing an interview about mental health. So can you tell me about what it was like growing up in your childhood?
Well, let me start by saying it was a different time. It was like the end of the World War II, and I was born in 34, so the war was over in 41 or 42. But then we had two other wars after that, and it made a big impression, for everybody. It was a time where people were working in factories. In fact, that's when women started to work in factories, building things. So my aunt and my sister worked in a factory. So, and then after that, we had two other wars, the Korean War and that. So people that were just a little bit older than Grandpa and I, and we had more people that died that we knew close.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of made a big, But you'd live in the neighborhood in Chicago, and everybody knew everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you knew everybody's name down the block, and everybody knew your name. So if you did anything wrong, your mother knew about it. So, but that was growing up. We lived across the street from a park, and at that time, that's where all the kids used to go. They used to have ice skating, and they had a building there that in the winter you could play basketball, and they also had tables and chairs and a library there, and they had learn how to play chess or all other, kind of games. Or they used to play cards and everything there. So after school, everybody used to meet there. So it was a lot of fun. And also we had a swimming pool. That's where I met Grandpa.
Really?
Yeah. The swimming pool, we did swimming there. And we were in a swimming show.
Mm-hmm.
Like through our young years.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was, we went and we would have practice every day, and so we met there. And then that's where we met all our friends and grew up with them there. We all hung around there, and we had a candy store across from the park, and we all meet there and go to school. We'd walk to school. They had no buses then.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever your school was. But I went to Catholic school, so.
Yeah. And then how was your relationship with your family? Like, how many siblings did you have? And, were you close to your siblings and your parents?
Yeah, close to my mom and dad. And I had a sister. She was 6 years older. So it was easier for me when you have somebody go through to do things.
For sure.
Yeah. And my parents they both worked. At that time, a lot of housewives didn't work. I used to have a note on the table when I got home from school, and it said, go shopping for this and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, you didn't have to have money. We didn't have cards where you can give them, and what they did was they'd say, what's your last name? And my mom would say, well, go to the butcher, go to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to take my dad's shirts to the cleaners there, and I would pick up the stuff, but they would just mark it down in a book, and then at the end of the week, my mom and dad would go pay for whatever or like when I came home for lunch to make lunch, I could stop at a store and buy what I want for lunch, and then they would pay for it at the end of the week. That was like the neighborhood. Everybody knew you, and all these stores there was always a store, a butcher shop. There was always a grocery shop and a hardware store.
Yeah.
So, like a block away or 2 blocks away from your house. So.
Mm-hmm. And so the next question, what do you know about mental health / mental illnesses?
What do I know about mental health?
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of people that had mental health, in the early years that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have facilities like we have now.
Yeah.
I had an uncle that came back from the First World War,
mm-hmm.
and he had problems, and my dad, being the oldest, they said you have to put him in Mantino because he's going to hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was way, way out of Chicago at that time. So I remember going there to that facility where he was, and seeing people from war and other people there for mental health.
Yeah. What was it like visiting that facility? Do you remember things you saw or
Well, they just, they would come down and you couldn't go, into their places. They had a big room, and we'd sit at a table, maybe, 6. My dad would go, and my mom and I, and maybe an aunt or 2. And, we'd go visit them. But it was hard to see that came a big, I thought everybody that came out of war was going there.
Do you remember the physical building itself? Was it clean? Was it dirty, or was it just
the facilities?
Yeah, the facility.
Yeah, no, they weren't fancy,
mm-hmm.
but it was very clean all the time.
Yeah.
So, but there were different places, so I know that other people went.
Mm-hmm.
I had a cousin that he wasn't very well either. He had to go to a facilities, and at that time they thought his brain wasn't right, and they put that thing in and electrocuted him.
Wow.
Yeah, he had that done to him quite a few times.
Yeah.
And that was after years of knowing that was wrong
mm-hmm.
for them to do that. But that's what they did.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they were doing. So, and he was my age, so he had a lot of problems after that.
Were you close with him?
Yeah, we grew up together. So he lived like maybe a block and a half from us, and we used to go over there and you know, like families do, get together.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
but yeah, that was hard to see because at that time when I was growing up, they didn't know because there wasn't that many doctors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'd go to your doctor, and that was a family doctor, and the family doctor took care of everything.
How was it like for you to watch like someone you were very close with go through that?
Oh, it was very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what they did to him, and then to see him where he really never was right. You know, he went and he got a job and everything, but people, they just didn't know what to do with people that were now, you know, they have an, you know, so you go through different stages where now people think they have bad health care, but really what we had years ago, you know, 85 years ago, was nothing like now.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm thinking of all the things that they can do for you, you know, take you in and find, cancer, or you can go in and they tell you what's wrong. They didn't have those facilities. They didn't put you through all those stuff.
Yeah.
You go in and the doctor would say, well, take this pill or that pill and, you know, check your heart, check your thing. If everything was okay, then, you know, you'd go home.
Yeah.
And there wasn't as many hospitals or facilities like we have now.
Mm-hmm.
You kids are all so lucky.
Yeah.
Because they know what's going on, what diseases, how to treat them, and everything. So.
What is your impression of people with mental illness?
Well, I think if you're living with somebody with illness, you want them to be better,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But it's very hard, I think, for people that have it in their home, like somebody that they're taking care of,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know if they're gonna, you know, be mad and get, you know, break things and call you names and do all kind of stuff, and you don't know how to handle them. I think that's very hard for parents or somebody that's trying to do that. We have that now. A lot of people, you know, committing suicide and everything, and not. I mean, you can have something, but if it's not treatable or people are not into it, you know, they have to commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had a friend that their granddaughter jumped out of 72 floors.
Really?
Yeah. So committed suicide. And their mother and father were doctors.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know what's, you know, if they're doing it right or not, but, you know, they try to get help. But, you know, the drugs, if you're taking drugs and all kind of stuff, that affects your mind and your thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a hard situation to be in.
From when you were growing up, like, the treatment that they used to treat people with mental health, like how you said your cousin had the electric shock, versus, you know, treatment now, like counseling or therapy and medication, do you think that's a step in the right direction?
Well, Yeah, but the person, I think, has to want to get better. You know, if there's no communication where they want to change or something. But I know you have to be on some medication and things like that, but you know, a lot of times, like this girl that just committed suicide, I don't know what, you know, she had all the help her parents gave her, but still. So you never know.
So when you were growing up, was mental health talked about?
No, it wasn't.
No.
No. You know, I never heard my father, we went there, but he never talked about what exactly was what they were doing and how they were doing it and stuff, you know. It was all like a secret.
Yeah.
You know, he had his brother there, and they didn't want to talk about it.
Why do you think they didn't want to talk about it?
I don't know. You know, as I got older and remember even after he died, they didn't want to talk about it. So that was a way a lot of, you know, older people did it. They thought, you know, well, let's not talk about it. It's, you know, it's something, everything was more like left in the family. Nothing was open like now.
And do you think it's better now that it's more talked about? Like it's more of an open conversation?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we all have problems, and if you don't talk about them, then, you know, they only get worse because you keep it inside you.
When you were growing up, was there like kind of a stigma around mental health? You know, like how Papa in his like interview, he said people were called like crazy or like they were insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody was nuts. That's what they used to say. Well, he's in a facility, you know, but he's nuts. I mean, you know, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
There was no name for him at that time. They, you know, didn't put a name on it. It's just, you know, he's in a crazy house. That's what they would say.
Yeah.
That was the most times that I heard that word, crazy house.
Was counseling or therapy ever talked about when you were younger?
No.
Really? Like you didn't, did you ever know anyone who went to therapy?
Yeah, my cousin Bobby did.
Yeah, Bobby, okay.
And he really got it took him a long, long time, you know, maybe 20 years before he could really manage himself and go back to school and, you know, get a job.
For sure.
Yeah, and get married. Otherwise, I mean, he just, what they did to him, what they did to his brain, you know, he never wanted to talk about it either. I mean, if you would ask him, how you doing, Bobby, or, you know, and he was very quiet about those things. He would just go into another room, you know, didn't want to express himself about anything.
Do you think it's important for people to learn more about mental health?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And why do you believe that?
Because it helps. If you have a family and, you know, it's good just to know different things about what's going on in in the health world, you know. And I get that book, the arthritis book, and then they'll have all the name of the drugs and what's going on and stuff. So that kind of helps you. Years ago, nobody knew what they were taking.
Yeah.
and what it does to your system when you take it.
Mm-hmm.
So now they tell you, even on television, when you take it, this is going to happen to you and happen,
Mm-hmm.
So the doctor gives you a drug and you just feel different and something's wrong. It's get off the drug and call the doctor or make another appointment and don't take the drug anymore.
So Papa mentioned in his interview that Auntie Marcella went to see a psychiatrist. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Can you, explain, that whole kind of situation?
Well, hers was over. She couldn't accept her daughter's death.
Okay.
And this just changed her whole life. So one day she's driving the car, and she almost went right up the driveway. And I called her husband and said, Jerry, she needs help. So we took her over to Christ Hospital, and they had a floor that she was on, that they took care of that. She was there for a couple weeks,
Mm-hmm.
And she was on medication for a while, and then, she came to realize what she was doing, and it helped her a lot, because it's the same as having the flu or anything else.
Yeah.
You're sick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you do talk about it, and other people, if you had a broken leg, you talk about it, so why wouldn't you talk about, and I think it helps you when it's kept such a secret, like they did years ago. Years ago, they didn't even want to talk about somebody that lost a baby,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a natural thing, that you couldn't carry it, and maybe sometimes it was better that happened, so you could try again and things. But people didn't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
You knew about it, but nobody would talk, well, this would happen to me, and I should have done that or that. So it's not that anybody should be ashamed of.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that happens, and it happens to all of us,
Yeah.
It could happen to everybody, Some people are lucky, and that they catch it and know how to handle it and go on, just like, Bobby did.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I never thought he would. He was the kind of, he got the wrong care in the beginning, but as he went along,
Mm-hmm.
and there was better things for that,
Yeah.
Mental health that he had.
What kind of treatment did he receive? Because at first he had the electric shock therapy.
Yeah.
And then what happened after that, where he got better?
Oh, he had a lot of sessions with psychiatrists.
Okay. Was he ever on medication for it, or was that not a thing?
Oh, I think he was on,
Okay.
a little bit of medications, but he went on group therapy,
Mm-hmm.
with other people then. So, but he fought it, He really, he got the help that he needed, My aunt and uncle got him into the right places then.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time that first, where they try to do all those things to the brain,
Mm-hmm.
that was wrong. So, but that's has never been again. So.
Yeah. And then, do you think mental health is curable?
No, I don't think it's terrible.
No, curable.
Oh, curable. I thought you said terrible.
Or mental illnesses, are they curable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure they are.
Mm-hmm.
You can get cured from any, anything nowadays.
For sure.
Just have to want to.
Mm-hmm.
And then who's ever helping you, you got to be true to them too, that you're doing it right.
Yeah.
So.
And then anything else did you want to add on the subject?
No, I'm glad you brought the subject up because it's a good subject because we all get sick in different ways. So it's just like any disease that you get, and then you want to get over it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I know a lot of people don't believe that, you know. But it's also finding the right doctor, I think. Somebody that you truly can talk to and
Comfortable with?
Comfortable with.
Yeah.
That helps the most. Because if you don't talk about it, then it's never going to get better.